It is so good that we are together, and I'm really blessed because, well, I thought I would never make it. It is so hard to want to go to meet the church, and you can't. There are roadblocks everywhere. Okay, anyhow, I thought, you know what? Probably because I need to experience more what Shamgar experienced, and I will let you know, okay? For sure, I will not be able to finish the sermon today, but at least I will start it, okay? And I'm not going over time, so I know, oh, it's 8 o'clock? No, it's 11:30. Okay, that one is 8 o'clock, like, I'm early now? Okay, so when I prepared this message, I wanted to start with a challenging question that was actually challenging for me. And I hope it's challenging for you. Who inspires you today? Who is the person who inspires you today? Not 5 years ago, not 20 years ago. Right now. Can you say, yeah, this person inspires me today? And when you think about this, the next question is, what inspired you the most? His example or her example, or the opinion of that person, or the intellect, or whatever. We are in the book of Judges, and some people categorize these judges in minor judges and major judges. And the minors are those who, it's just, when you read, it's only a verse or two, and that's it. And you don't know what to do with it. And they thought, they were not so important. They were. And I hope I will help you to see this. One of the major judges is Barak. Well, we'll know him because of Deborah. But we'd always say Deborah and Barak. But when you read the New Testament, it's only Barak. And we'll talk about this later on, but not today. Anyhow, Deborah challenged Barak to act like a hero. He was not a hero. He was a man of God. He believed in God. He was a true believer. But he struggled with prudence. He thought, maybe not now is not the time. Maybe I need to wait more. Maybe I don't know what's going on. And Deborah, we will talk about her. She's also a magistrate. She's not a judge. Not a judge in the sense of hero, leader of an army, but a magistrate. But again, today we are not talking about Deborah and Barak. But there is a link between them and Shamgar. Because when you think of Shamgar, anyhow, did you ever heard about Shamgar? Who is this guy? Interesting, when you ask around, everybody heard about Deborah and Barak, but almost nobody heard about this guy, Shamgar. He is considered to be part of the minor judges, not so important, and I read some commentary saying that he was not even a judge. He was the enemy of Israel. I'm like, what Bible you read? Because it's very clear in the Bible that he was a judge, number one, and his heart was Israelite, although his name was not Israelite. He was not from the right stock of people. You always think of him like, Shamgar. I don't know. So, in what we know about him is in Judges chapter 3, verse 31. Is the last verse of chapter 3. After Ehud died, it is said this about him. After him was Shamgar, the son of Anath, who killed 600 of the Philistines with an ox goad. And he also saved Israel. That's it. We don't know much about him, But if we read the song that Deborah and Barak, both of them, it was a duet. They both of them sing. And it was a part where only Barak was singing. It was a part only one where Deborah was singing. And it was a part where both of them were singing. Interesting, same lyrics. Interesting. But we'll talk more about this. But when you read Judges chapter 5, verse 6 to 9, you'll find out about this. In the days of Shamgar, could you go to the next slide? This one. In the days of Shamgar, son of Anath, so the same person. In the days of Jael, the highways were abandoned, and travelers kept to the byways. The villagers ceased in Israel. They ceased to be until I arose. I, Deborah, arose as a mother in Israel. When new gods were chosen, then war was in the gates. Was shield or spear or to be seen 40,000 in Israel? My heart goes out to the commanders of Israel, who offered themselves willingly among the people. Bless the Lord. Their song was about Shamgar. And we don't have this type of songs, right? To have, maybe we speak, in the days of Elijah. You know that song? Beautiful song. We sing about David, but nobody will sing about Cristian, Pana. I'm like, what in the world? Well, why should we sing about this and that? Nobody will sing about you, although you are a hero of faith. But here we have Shamgar, that we have only one verse. Minor judge. Oh, maybe he was not even judge. But they sing about him in the days of Shamgar. In Judges 15:20, we found out about the days of the Philistines. And these days are remembered. These days are memorable. So when you put all things together, you realize that the days of Shamgar, the days of Jael, the days of the Philistines were memorable days. Days when you know that you think of these days, you think, oh my God, what a days. Wow, what a history we have. What a mighty God we have. So you understand when you read the days of Shamgar, something really important happened. And we understand that the days of Shamgar were the same days with Jael. And we know that she was contemporary with Deborah and Barak. They knew each other. And these days were awesome days, memorable days. For them, Shamgar was not a bedtime story character. We want to talk with our kids and it's just Sunday school story. No, it was memorable time. He was not a minor judge. He was a judge. And they named these days after him, just to remember the days. And these days were similar. The days of Shamgar and the days of Jael. That means the days of Barak and Deborah. These times, they were contemporary. They lived in the same time. And they lived in the northern part of Israel. They knew each other. They heard, maybe, I don't know if they met, but they knew each other. In this song, Deborah also has a solo part in verse 7 where she says, the villagers ceased in Israel. They ceased to be until I arose. I, Deborah, arose as a mother in Israel. You know what? Until I prepared this sermon, I always thought she was kind of proud of herself. Like, whew, you know who I am. And I thought, why she's so, this is not a humble attitude of a servant of God. She was a prophetess. She was a magistrate. Why are you talking about yourself like this? I was a mother of Israel. Well, then I remember that Job said the same thing in Job 29:16, that he was a father to the poor. He was not bragging about this. He said, I had a compassionate heart toward the poor. So I thought maybe that this is actually what she wants to say here about herself. I was so compassionate about Israel. I had to do this. I arose not because I wanted, but because the situation and because God pushed me, so I had to do it. But I didn't do it because I really wanted the position, but nobody wanted. And I thought, I will do it. She was married. I don't know if they had children, but then she realized Israel, the whole Israel, they are my children. I'm a mother to them. They need protection. Read again. Do you see the situation in Israel? They really needed protection. And she said, you know what? I realized it's my time. But she never said the Deborah time. But she always talked about Shamgar time, the days of Shamgar. In verse 8, Deborah and Barak, they sing about the fact that, you see that? When new gods were chosen, then war was in the gates. Not at the gates, but in the gates. If you know anything about the gates, today we don't have that, okay? So it's so far from us, and we don't understand the meaning. But what is the most vulnerable point of access in a city, a walled city? The gate. So you want strong gates, right? We will talk more about the gates when I will preach about Samson. And that gate, Gaza gate, was three tons of wood. But not only that, but the entrance, you don't want a straight entrance. Therefore, they made something like this. If you want to go there, then you have to turn, and then you turn again, and you turn again. And every time you turn, there are arrows and weapons and people, and they kill you. So they made that vulnerable place a place of death. But this is not the point that I want to make here. In the gates, at the gates, or in this area where you see it was like a snake, there were benches. When I was in Israel, I've been in a gate like this, and it was so interesting to see it on the spot. And then I understood what happened. So there were benches, on these benches, the two things happened in the gates. So in that area, first, the major transaction of the city, economical transactions. If you want to seal a deal and to close a deal, you go to the gates. Why? Because at the gates, they were the leaders of that city, the elders of the city. And if you shake hands, then everybody knows the deal is closed. Number two, all the situations that involve the law and condemnation and anything that, the magistrates, they were there at the gates. So the business area of a city was at the gates. But do you see here, verse 8? It's not, no. Well, 8. Then the war was in the gates. The Philistines took the gates, and you could not have either transactions or a court. So you were under control, total control. If you in the past, if you read about Deborah, she was a magistrate, and she was doing this under a tree. She was not at the gates, because at the gates, it was illegal to do that. What she did was illegal, was not something that the Philistines liked. So she risked her life to be a magistrate. And she was a prophetess. God talked to her heart, and then she commanded Barak, go and fight for God. And he said, yes, ma'am, because he knew God was speaking. But what she was doing there was totally illegal, against the law of that time. Read again. It's so interesting. In the days of Shamgar, the travelers kept to the byways. Not the highways were not used. They had always to go the byways. The villagers ceased in Israel. A village is like few houses without a wall. The wall was only for the cities. So if you live in a village, you think God will protect us. They were without protection. And then Deborah said, and I, Deborah, I arose like a mother. God told me I have to do something for their protection. And she did. But now, who was her inspiration? You tell me. Who inspired Deborah? Who inspired Barak? Who inspired the whole Israel to rise and to fight against the Canaanites? Tell me. Shamgar. The days of Shamgar. What he did inspired them all. And it is like a movie in two acts, or a theater in two acts. Act 1, Shamgar. Act 2, Deborah and Barak. Act 3, everybody's happy. Why? Because Israel was attacked by the Philistines for the first time in their history. By the Philistines and by the Canaanites. How do I know? Well, verse 9 made me to understand that Shamgar was her inspiration. To step outside of the box, of that box everybody was in. She stepped out and she said, I am a mother. I have to protect. My heart goes out to the commanders of Israel, commander in a sense of military commanders. Commanders of Israel who offered themselves willingly among the people. And then she's ready to say, bless the Lord, praise God. Do you see this? She's so excited. Not only because the commanders of Israel, by the way, when we will get there, you will see that not everybody followed Barak. No, everybody followed Deborah. Only 2 tribes and some others, people here and there. But others, they stayed home and like, okay, we want to see this happening. I don't care. And in the song, their name is right there. But who was another commander that willingly offered himself, Shamgar? He was one of them. Her heart inclined to the military commanders of Israel. That means she felt drawn to them. She was impressed by their deeds, especially the fact that willingly they sacrificed. Shamgar was an inspiration for an entire generation. After Ehud died, he inspired them all. The leaders of Israel, the commanders of Israel, every Israelite. But when he arose, remember what it says in verse 3? chapter 3, verse 31. After him was Shamgar, the son of Anath, who killed 600 of the Philistines with an ox goad, and he also saved Israel. Do you know what I don't see here? The Israelites. Remember Ehud? When he started the revolution, the revolt? Israel was behind him. And they killed 10,000 of the Moabites. When you read about Deborah and Barak, another 10,000 of people, 40,000 of people, they followed them. Who followed Shamgar? Nobody. He had to do it by himself. On one man against 600. Not all of them at once. It was not like a bulk of army that 600, charged against him, and he with the ox god started to fight with them. It was not like that. You know why? Read again. The villagers ceased in Israel. The highways were abandoned. They were stationed everywhere in Israel, and they stopped the life in Israel. They stopped everything. They controlled everything. And our Shamgar looked like a peasant with his ox god. I will tell you next time what it is that. Well, I will tell you now. Because it's maybe I had to. By the way, I made one, but I could not come in the subway with that. It really looks like a weapon. So it was like a stick, 2.5 meters. One end was a pointy thing, like a spear, like a javelin, and on the other side was something like a sizzle or like a hoe. And this was, first of all, to push the oxes. When they stop and they don't want to move, you challenge them, you motivate them, and then they go, okay? No whip for the oxen. Maybe for the horses goes, but for the oxen, they need this, and okay. And the other part, he used, if the plow stopped, he had to clean the plow. So it was an instrument of an agricultural instrument. It's not a weapon, but he used it as a weapon. So I love to imagine. So he was walking on the highway or whatever, the road, and what they saw, from afar, just a peasant with an ox goad. When he came close, he showed his real colors, and he smacked them, and they didn't know who struck them because it was fast. And like, what's going on? So road after road, village after village, he stopped the control of the Philistines because they were not even. Verse 8, second part, read. Was shield or spear to be seen among 40,000 in Israel? They were not allowed to carry weapons. So that was not a weapon. And he saved Israel, killing 600, not all at once, but little by little, until the number was 600. Some commentators said, oh, no, you know what? 600 probably is because is very similar with what Samson did. Although Samson killed how many? Do you remember? 1,000, right? Well, it's 600 or 1,000. So it's just a story. I read commentators saying that this is only a story. And when I read this, I was like, no, it's not a story. Bible translates Bible. Bible interprets Bible. Use the Bible to understand what's going on. So, my idea that I wanted to preach today, but I am not. So I know, I'm aware it's 54. So I'm not abusing your time and patience. I wanted to talk about the hero, Shamgar. This hero who struggled with loneliness in ministry. Because nobody followed him. He was just a farmer, but he was a judge. I remember that in church history, one of the leaders of the church in Rome was a slave. So imagine if you are a slave owner and you go to church, you listen to the slave preaching the gospel. It's kind of, for them, it was unheard of. Something like that is here with Shamgar. Shamgar inspired them all. And I come back to the same question. Who inspires you to live your life? Do you have a hero of faith that you say, I want to be like him, I want to be like her? The next question I want to ask is that hero God? Because who was the hero of Shamgar? So I understand who, Barak and Deborah, they looked high, to this Shamgar. But how about Shamgar? Was inspired by who? You tell me, because you know. Who raised him at this position as a hero? God. Because judges are in that position only if God put them there. Jesus Christ, in his pre-incarnate form, when he was, remember in chapter 2, the angel of the Lord, this is it. So I imagine he looked at Jesus and he said, I want to be like him. God is our ultimate hero. I love Paul. He's one of my heroes. One, because I have many. Believe me. But then I thought, who was the hero of Paul? Who was, the name, Jesus Christ. So, I have 3 questions though. You understand, he was an inspiration for all Israel. And I will give you something else. If he fought 600 with an ox goat, when Barak and Deborah, they started the revolt and they started the war against the Canaanites, what do you think about their weapons? They had spears and shields and helmets and swords. No. They were not allowed to have that. Not allowed. I imagine that entire army of peasants with instruments that they used at their work. I don't know what they were doing. Each one of them, they grabbed something and they... So if you look at this army, it's so pathetic. But you will read, if you want to, but hopefully you will read this. God went before them. And they were just running after the enemy. They were not so pathetic because the one who won the war was God. So again, I want to ask you, who is your inspiration? What's the name of that person? And I'm talking about human beings here. Number 1. Number 2, is God your inspiration when everybody else failed to inspire you? Number 3, I think this one is the hardest. Do you know where I'm going with that, right? Are you an inspiration for somebody else? And that is the question. Shamgar looked around. Nobody was to see. Everybody was in the city, in the wall. They were hiding. They were in panic. They feared. And he looked around and nobody was there. He was alone. What do you do when you are alone and you serve Christ? Keep going. Use whatever you have, the ox goad. You keep going. What makes you keep going? Jesus Christ is the one who makes us keep going. Even when we look around and say, nobody's with me, but the Lord is with me. God is with us. I remember in Israel, in the history of Israel, when the Amalekites attacked Israel. Before this situation, they asked, is God among us? And then the Amalekites attacked. And Moses went to a hill, I think it was a hill, a little bit higher than just everybody to see this. And he took the staff and he held the staff. Remember this? And when he was holding the staff, Israel was strong. But after a while, he was pretty old. Like, oh man, I cannot do this all the time. And Israel was, phew. And then Aaron and his brother-in-law, they went to him and say, hey, let me help. So what was the help? Yeah. So now you see 3 people. 1 holding the staff and 2 were holding the hands. But at one moment in the beginning was only Moses saying, God is among us, is with us. And this is the message for today. When you look around and it's nobody and you think you're alone, and if you right now experience loneliness in ministry or at your job or in your family, if you look around and say, I don't know what to do, just look up. Just look up and let God inspire you. And after you are inspired enough and you keep going, let others be inspired by your example. Because we need to be inspired. Our services here, we come together Sunday, and even in this situation where I know there are so many probably that they went back home because they could not come. You know what? We come together every Sunday in the small groups for the purpose of encouraging each other. We want to be inspired because we cannot continue if we are not inspired. And you are an inspiration for me, and I hope I'm an inspiration for you. It's bidirectional. It's not only one direction. I come to the church service to be inspired. And when I'm not inspired, whoa, what is that? That is a spectator mentality, mindset. You know the spectators? They sit in their benches, they applaud or they boo, but they don't know how to play. But I want to tell you here, now, all of us are players here. We are not spectators. And when you are down and you don't know what to do, we need to inspire each other. That's discipleship. And I hope you've been inspired today. And I hope you go back home thinking about this. Man, I need to look closer to my God, to Jesus Christ, because I want to be inspired by Him. And I want to be an inspiration for others. Hopefully, you will think like this, and God will bless you with answers. Amen? Amen. Again, I'm really sorry I was so late, and I have to continue this sermon next time because I have so many things to say. This is only the introduction. There is so much about this Shamgar, and I didn't know I will preach so much about Shamgar, but I hope it's an inspiration for you, and you are an inspiration for others. Amen.